Muslims eat pork. Jews eat shellfish. Hindus eat beef. Christians eat meat on Fridays. Priests, get yourself laid. All of you religious nuts out there, go visit a hooker. Work on the Sabbath. Fuck a random person before getting married. Just make sure you take the proper precautions. Cook your pork well. Make sure your lobster comes from waters that aren't contaminated. Wear a fucking condom. You see, back in the days when people were highly superstitious, religious leaders saw a cause and effect of certain behaviors. People who ate undercooked meats from certain kinds of animals would get sick. Trichinosis. People who slept around would catch mysterious itchy red bumps on their genitalia and possibly die sooner than the average person. People who didn't take a break at least once a week would probably get stressed out, flip out, and kill their fucking families. There were very rational reasons for these rules, and each type of behavior had consequences. Religious leaders could see these consequences, but the religious leaders of those days didn't know about microbes, they didn't know about STDs or post-traumatic stress disorder, so they attributed them to an invisible work of a deity. They were the punishments handed down from a just God, not the repercussions of eating undercooked food. The religious leaders made up rules that were very applicable to the time they lived in, but they said these rules were laid down by God. Take the priests should not get married rule, for example. This one was laid down in the Middle Ages by a very paranoid Catholic Church that was afraid of losing financial assets to alimony. This was never mentioned in the Bible, and yet it became God's law, as if God himself came out of the clouds and decreed it. There were other laws back then that I could only assume were equally as rational for that time as they are today. Honor thy father and mother, don't steal, don't lie, don't cheat on your wife. And these morality laws make just as much sense today as they did back then. But then there's the not-so-sensible laws. Don't wear clothing woven of two types of fabric. Don't wear certain colors on certain days. You can beat your slave to near death, but only with a rod no wider than your thumb. Stone your daughter to death for having sex before marriage. I'm sure they made some kind of sense to the people of that day. I mean, I would hope they do. I would hope that the religious leaders of the time didn't take advantage of a trusting public, and after laying down a bunch of sensible laws in God's name, they would sneak in a few of their own personal biases. Or maybe they did. Since they were revered as the mouthpieces of gods, they could easily get away with murder. Could you imagine the morality laws of today, if we still had that same mindset that they did thousands of years ago? Thou shalt not smoke within 10 cubits of thy doorway. Thou shalt tip 15% or greater. Thou shalt not spill thy toxic chemicals into thy waterways. Thou shalt wash thy hands and cover thy cough. But religious laws still exist. Move to any backwoods community, or move to Utah, or move anywhere in the South. People are still trying to get laws passed because of things that were written down in a book that was supposedly authored by their particular religious deity. And fucktards like Pat Robertson and Jerry Falwell still claim that God speaks to them. All I ask is this. Let's stop pretending that invisible people are telling us what to do and start legislating laws according to common sense. Let's not condemn people for eating pork or eating beef or eating chocolate or fish. Let's not condemn sex workers or people who have premarital sex. Let's not judge people who are attracted to people of the same sex. Let's not ban drinking of alcohol on any given holy day. Let us come to the realization that the laws were written down in those days, and they were pertinent to those days, and that those laws were not given by an all-powerful best friend in the sky, but by leaders of those days. Let us realize that we live in a time of condoms and microwaves and meat thermometers. Let us follow that golden rule, do unto others, a rule that was around far before Christianity ever existed. Let us not get offended by the private actions of other people if they do not impact our lives. And I ask all of this in the name of the Holy Trinity, the noodle, the sauce, and the meatball. Ramen.